Chapter 25. I often and silently come where you are, that I may be with you. Walt Whitman. Finesse looked like a big black smudge retreating to town. Great speech, said Clebo. It's about time. Don't talk to me, said House. You're no friend of mine. Fine, said Clebo. He crossed his arms over his chest. Don't expect me to play in your ball game, neither. I don't, said House. We've got a catcher. Ruby nodded. Now what? We'd all better pray that Clebo's mama doesn't come back from getting that machine fixed too soon, said Wilkie. That's a fact, said Boone. We're in real trouble now. I'll be back, said House. Honey, stay here. I'll keep her, Ruby volunteered. House ran after Finesse. He passed Melba Jane and reached Finesse as she neared the barber pole outside of Pip's shop on Main Street. Stop already, he shouted. Finesse stopped, but kept her back to House. Melba Jane caught up and plastered herself like a silent bug against the barber shop's plate glass window, and where she wouldn't miss a word. I can tell you how to make this work, said House. I'm not interested. Finesse spun to face House. Her face was a river of running black mascara, and her eyes were swollen from crying. Girls at the Lanyard School tried to tell me how to make things work, too, she hiccuped into her handkerchief. I was the best Emily Webb in the history of the Lanyard School's annual production of Thornton Wilder's Our Town. Miss DeBort even said so. I got deep inside my character. I inhibited her. I knew her inside and out. I understood what she meant when she said, do any human beings ever realize life while they live it? Every minute? Finesse looked heavenward as she slipped into character for a moment. Then she hid her face in her hands and sobbed. But the girls at the Lanyard School just laughed at me. They said I was ridiculous. They snickered behind my back all year. Do you know how that makes a person feel? You bet I do, said House. You left town, and I had to stay here and be laughed at. You know what the guy said to me? You let a girl break your arm. Finesse snorted back her tears. She had a caved-in look on her face. It's not the same thing. That was an accident. You have purposely embarrassed me in front of all those people. I can never go back there. Miss Mattie poked her head out of the store. You two all right over there? Yes'm, said House. Finesse waved her Snowburger's handkerchief. You did it on purpose, said Finesse. House watched his shadow slide over the sidewalk. I didn't mean the half of it. Yes, you did, Finesse sniffed. So did the girls at the Lanyard School. She blew her nose. A bee hummed between them and buzzed off, looking for a flower. House tried to think of something to say. All that would come out was, we need you. Finesse blinked through her tears. Look, said House, the mamas will skin us alive if we don't have a pageant, and the team, well, we have to play our game. That's all there is to it. We just do. And you yourself said that we're meant to honor baseball. You said Dr. Dan loves baseball. So did Mr. Norwood. You could direct the play right there on the ball field. There will be plenty of other times to use the stage. We could play some and dance some. I can't do the play stuff. You need to do it. He took off his hat and scratched his head. And somebody needs to teach Honey how to tap dance. Finesse sniffed. She wiped her tears and her eyes with the Snowburger's handkerchief. I'm sorry about what I said, said House. I'm real sorry about it. Finesse took a deep breath. She looked House in the eye. I'm sorry about your arm. His impulse was to say that's okay, but that's what you say at a time like this. It wasn't okay, but it was what it was. He thought about Pip's words. I know you are. You could be a good actor, said Finesse. I'm a pitcher, said House. I know you are, Finesse fidgeted. I tried to say I was sorry last year. I brought you a box of baseball cards. It was you? Finesse nodded and dabbed at her eyes. I knew you wouldn't talk to me, so I just left them on the porch. Poppy said you'd appreciate the gesture, that it would give you some comfort. House nodded. He'd met Sandy Koufax through Finesse. Unbelievable. I don't hate you, he said. I don't hate you either, Finesse swiped at imaginary dust on her black dress. So will you do it? Asked House. Melba coughed politely. Finesse took notice of her for the first time. Without a word, she took her veil and hat with feathers from Melba, as if she has fixed them to her head. She said, without too much conviction, My uncle, who is paying for our on-stage and our production, is expecting a play on his stage. Mixing a brutish sport with a fine art is just not done. It's not professional. Aurora County citizens will not stand for it. But she was intrigued. House could tell. It's a compromise, said House. We each get some of what we want. Everyone who wants to play can play. Everyone who wants to dance can dance. Everybody gets a part. It's organic. Finesse. He almost got a smile out of her. It's imaginative. She had to agree. Creative, in the spirit of the American theater. Will you do it? And then came another voice, a new one. It will never work. It was a deep, ceremonious, basso, profondo. Melba, Finesse, and House whirled to face it. Uncle Jim Bob, cried Finesse. Dr. Dan Devers filled the doorway of the barber shop with his legendary presence.